Nano Machine by Hanjo Leolia. Chapter 416. The Dragon Turtle. Part 1. Chen Yuan had heard from Prince Baekhyun that the dragon was using powers related to qi, so he had, in advance, taken measures with the help of Nano. At the very least, he managed to prevent everyone from getting shocked to death. The measures prepared were a remarkable success. Grr. Was it because of what happened? The yellow eyes of the dragon turtle, which didn't achieve its purpose, looked down with an unpleasant gaze. It used lightning, yet not a single person had died. Is this the first time I'll see a live spirit beast? Chen Yuan thought as he looked at the long and broad dragon. He obtained the core of a Mugi and then the core of the flame of Qilin, which was sealed in the royal shrine of the imperial palace. However, it was always the core and energy of beasts that had been captured ages ago. Those people were indeed great. To kill such monsters. He knew that the energy he felt from the dragon was completely different from other warriors. As it was called Spirit Beast, it was safe to say that it is an entity different from humans. But the entire time I was here, we were strategizing. He wasn't just concerned with rushing to the north. Chen Yuan sent a message to someone. And Sixth Elder, Mong Mu, who was in charge of the troops, came ahead and shouted. Now is the time, counterattack. All swordsmen draw your swords. Yes. When the order fell, the 600 warriors under the 6 swords yelled and drew their swords, which were engulfed in energy. Whoa! The scene of 600 warriors raising their weapons was spectacular. Moyang Yu, who came to inform the demonic cult about the dragon, was in awe. Wow, they brought their elites with them. The warriors under the 6 swords were made up of talented individuals within the demonic cult. Raising sword and defense units was a natural thing. Sword and defense units are known for having the highest amount of military and discipline training. It was shocking to see the formation of the sword and defense units, perfectly harmonious. Let's start. When Chen Yuan raised his hand, 6th Elder Mong Mu shouted. All the first-class warriors aim your swords for the neck of the dragon. Yes. The cultists at the first class were close to master level and could use sword qi. Of the 600 men, 60 master level warriors surrounded the dragon and kept blasting the dragon's thick neck with sword qi, internal energy, and other attacks. Cha-cha-cha-cha. The energy they were producing hit the neck of the dragon with a sharp sound. The sword attacks weren't giving out huge wounds, but if they kept hitting the same place multiple times, the scales of the dragon turtle would tremble at the blows. Pa. The. Cha. The dragon turtle wasn't expecting such harmonious attacks, so it twisted and tried to counterattack to prevent qi attacks from being used on its body. At that time, Great Guardian Mara Kim shouted. 6 swords and Lieutenant Hu, next step. Fat. As Mara Kim moved to the sky, Hu Bong and the 6 swords simultaneously flew to the air and created a strong release of internal energy. Whoa! Their target was the head. If the 600 men attacked and the dragon moved to avoid getting hit, they decided to target the head. The 7 of them, at the same time, made their effort to hit the head. The first things used were Hu Bong's illusion sword technique and Mara Kim's 24 demon sword. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Ka-ka-cocking. The slashing sword attack spread across the dragon's head. The head was also covered in hard scales that no attack pierced, but the dragon roared as if the attacks were reaching its body. Go! Keep attacking. The 6 swords, including Ko Wonger, all aimed for the dragon's head at the same time. Surrounded by strong attacks, they once again created distance and struck the demon. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Kuu. The dragon turtle couldn't move and kept howling at the rain of attacks that came onto it. The lower body was being attacked by the warriors, the neck was being attacked by the first-class, master-level warriors. That is. The demonic cult might be able to take down that dragon head. Moyang, who was watching, couldn't help but admire it. No matter how hard the dragon's scales were, it seemed like the dragon despised getting attacked. It seemed like Jiggle Sohi and his father's concerns were for nothing. We're the ones in trouble. Moyang, who thought there was no need to worry about the demonic cult, tried to move back to where the Yulin troops were. It was then. Wuong. This energy is? Moyang turned his head, startled at the tremendous energy he felt from behind. The dragon's head, which was covered in black scales, was rapidly radiating intense white light. It was scary and ominous for some reason. Avoid. Mara Kim, who continued to hit the dragon head, exclaimed urgently. Similarly, 6 swords, who were startled by the ominous energy, withdrew at once. It spread in all directions, but what the dragons seemed to aim for was the direction where Hubong was present. A ray of blue light flickered through the mouth of the dragon turtle, who was baring its sharp teeth. It seemed to be emitting something different from lightning. Crackle. This. Avoid at all costs. Shocked, they all tried to release shields, knowing that the other warriors wouldn't be able to hold their defense with their internal energy. Damn it. Hubong looked at the dragon's mouth, which was wailing. Both its eyes seemed to be dyed white. Quack. Crackle. And then it paused, and a beam of pale blue lightning flashed from the dragon's mouth and split the air. It was different from the waves of lightning it used before. This one was stronger. Quack 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 quack. Everything the lightning touched was destroyed, even clouds. Mun Ku and Ko Wonger were trembling at the tremendous power and shouted. Hubong. Che Takim. It wasn't an attack that could be stopped. Anywhere the lightning passed had black smoke spreading around. It held a power that no martial artist could defend. Hubong and Che Takim, whom the dragon aimed at, wouldn't survive. Mun Ku reached for the ground with red eyes. How could this happen? Who? She didn't even know that the dragon was aiming for Hubong and Che Takim. It was such a tragic end. She was on the verge of bursting into tears when she heard a familiar cry from afar. I'm not dead yet. Huh? Mun Ku's eyes widened as she looked in the direction where the voice came from. Both Hubong and Che Takim were in the air. And they were holding on to Chen Yuan's hand, who was in front of them. When it was about to attack, Chen Yuan quickly pulled them down from the air. If he was even a little late, both of them would have turned into a crisp. Hi. I thought you were dead. We are not dead yet. Hee hee. Mun Ku smiled broadly, wiping away her tears. Che Takim, who was too shocked, mumbled with a pale face. Lo Lord, I almost died. Thank you. At those words, Chen Yuan looked at the dragon with serious eyes, not responding. It was because the dragon was once again condensing energy, and was ready to shoot another beam of lightning. Whoa! Again? Everyone looked at the dragon's head with scared expressions. Float. Ugh. 2 people fell to the ground on their butts. Everyone get down. At Chen Yuan's cry, every member fell flat on the floor, no matter where they were. Goo. Strong white light condensed from the dragon's mouth, and Chen Yuan extended his hand towards it. Crackle. Cold chi rose in the air, and hundreds of ice swords appeared around the dragon's head. The dragon's eyes widened, looking puzzled, but Chen Yuan didn't care as he clenched his hands, and the ice sword rushed towards the dragon at once. Cha-cha-chaka-chaka. Huawak. Hundreds of ice swords hit the dragon's head and chin simultaneously. The dragon's mouth, which was about to release lightning, shut, and the attack disappeared. Chen Yuan frowned. It's unpenetrated. As the ice swords hit the dragon's head, each sword shattered due to the scales. Even then, the cultists who fell to the ground watched and shouted in excitement when the lightning beam was blocked. Whoa! When everyone's morale rose, Chun Yo-won and Mara Kim shouted at the same time. Down! No one gets up! The dragon roared. Quack! Along with the roar, a wave of lightning rose from the dragon's body. Crackle! The startled warriors quickly lowered their heads and bodies, lower than the lightning rods. The wave of lightning emitted by the dragon got sucked into the rods, just like it did before. But that wasn't the end. Unlike the previous waves of lightning, which would end, the dragon turtle kept releasing more and more waves. Crackle! 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 Everyone was stuck to the ground, not moving, because of the constant waves of lightning. What? How long does it plan to release waves of lightning? The faces of the cultists, who leaned to the ground, looked at the lightning rods, which were turning darker and darker. The lightning rods, which were absorbing the lightning, were turning redder and curved. It should have been exhausted, but the dragon turtle kept spewing lightning as if it had infinite power, driving the lightning rods to their limit. Crack! Ugh! And the lightning rods began to bend one after another. There were around 60 rods, and more than 10 had already turned red and bent. Now the demonic cult was in a dangerous situation. The lightning exceeds the limit the rods can withstand. Chun Yo-won's face went stiff at Nano's voice, which echoed in his head. This can't be. He tried to eliminate the dragon turtle by using strategy, but it looked like he misunderstood its power. If things continued like this, everyone would die. It had to be stopped, but the power emitted by the dragon was something that Chun Yo-won couldn't even understand. In addition, the range of the emitted lightning was so wide that he wouldn't be able to cover it. Nano, is there any other way to withstand lightning? The higher the thermal energy, the higher the wavelength of the atom impeding the movement of electrons. Can you break it down into a simple way? As the heat increases, the flow of the current decreases. However, the current emitted by the dragon turtle is too strong. It may be dangerous. Ugh, it has to be dangerous. Otherwise, it would have been killed by now. When Chun Yo-won slowly tried to stand up, Chae Ta-kim and the other cultists around him tried to stop him. Lo Lord! It's dangerous. Get away from me. What? Wuong! Ah? When Chun Yo-won slightly waved his hand, the warriors who were around him got pushed away. Everyone was shocked, but then they felt the ferocious energy that was engulfing them. Wuong! This is? At that moment, a change occurred in Chun Yo-won's body. Wing! Black flames rose all over his body. It radiated a different level of heat from what Hu Bong showed his members. Just being close enough would burn them down. Be black flame? As his whole body was covered in black flames, the yellow eyes of the dragon, which continued to release lightning, suddenly turned towards Chun Yo-won. It seemed like the dragon had sensed the energy of another spirit beast from him. Quack! The dragon turtle emitted stronger lightning and tried to push Chun Yo-won down. Crackle! Crack! Crack! Nearly half the lightning rods broke in an instant, burning up in blue flames. As a result, the remaining lightning rods couldn't completely absorb the attack, and the members close to the attack screamed in pain. Ack! Quack! Chun Yo-won moved to the air, his eyes filled with anger at the shouts and screams of his members. Crackle! Chun Yo-won's blinked a couple times. Sparks were bouncing in all directions, but he seemed less affected with the black flames around him. It was a tingling sensation. Cut it at once. An invisible sword made of the black flame was created in Chun Yo-won's hand. Only by beheading the dragon turtle at once will he be able to prevent the worst from happening. Swoosh! Chun Yo-won broke through the lightning waves and reached for the dragon's neck. At that moment, something unexpected happened. Ugh! The dragon turtle stopped the waves of lightning, and a white flash appeared in its mouth. Cunningly, it waited for Chen Yuan to approach it. Shit! Fat! Fat! Shocked, Chen Yuan immediately tried to change sides and move away. But... Qua! Once again, the intense lightning erupted as the dragon turtle opened its mouth. As the dragon turned its neck to the side and kept on following where Chen Yuan was moving. Crackle! Crackle! In an instant, Chen Yuan's figure disappeared in the light. Lord did. All the members of the cult, including Man Ku, shouted in shock. However, there was no time for such things. They all had to try their best to avoid the lightning. The ray of lightning didn't end after engulfing Chen Yuan. Crackle! Avoid! The cult members who escaped waves of lightning spread all over the area to avoid the damage. However, it wasn't an easy task to outrun the lightning, which was moving at the speed of light. Crack! Shock! Quack! Ack! About 20 members of the team who couldn't escape got hit and instantly turned black. Fortunately, the dragon turtle's target was Chen Yuan, so it stopped. As the members looked at the corpses turning into soot and the smoke rising from the dead, they became bewildered. Lord Che Taking was the most shocked. He blamed himself for letting Chen Yuan get close to the dragon. It was then. There, look over there. At the cry of one member, everyone turned their scared eyes. Wing! Be black flame? In thick smoke, black flames flickered. And the form seemed much larger than before. Wah, how can this be? The Lord is safe. Wah! All the members of the cult who thought that their Lord was dead began to scream and cheer. Hia! Chen Yuan gasped for air in the black flames. He too thought that he was done for when he saw the lightning get close to him. But he survived. Besides, lightning chi charge 400%, huh? As Nano announced, the white light particles in the augmented reality unfolded. His energy, which he thought would be rapidly consumed to block the lightning, actually increased by 4 times. It turned into a situation where he was overflowing with power. In the process of absorbing the lightning weakened by thermal energy, it was converted into the user's internal energy. Cause unknown. Analysis required. Huh? Nano's emergency measure was to protect Chen Yuan from the lightning. However, something unintended happened. Chen Yuan's mouth rose into a smile. It was a strange phenomenon that even Nano couldn't explain, but it was great news that the lightning emitted by the dragon turtle no longer worked on him. Chapter 417. The Dragon Turtle. Part 2. At first, dozens of people died by a single lightning bolt emitted by the dragon turtle. As a result, they couldn't help but keep a certain distance between them and the dragon to avoid getting hit. Thousand White Ice Sound. Thousand White Ice Sound and the Divine Palm of Ice God. It rained white frost as the Deputy King, Dan Jushin, unfolded technique after technique. It wasn't possible because he was alone, but because the elders of the North Sea Ice Palace used the same techniques simultaneously. Shh. Quack. The dragon turtle roared as the cold frost rained on his head. It wasn't because of the pain, but instead, it was the anger that rose as the frost reminded him of the cold ice that had imprisoned him for hundreds of years. Shoo! Shh. Lightning erupted from the dragon's mouth. Dan Jushin and the elders, who were using the cold chi, immediately moved to make ice shields. As they rotated their hands clockwise, transparent ice appeared in the form of a body shield. Crackle! Kook! Everyone! Hold on! Why yes! When the lightning hit the ice shields, it glided in a different direction. Their bodies bounced because of the power of lightning, but not a single person died. Thud. Quack. The elders and Dan Jushin, who fell to the ground, looked at the dragon yelling out in rage. As the fight continued, they managed to discover one thing. Although they couldn't pierce the dragon's scales or give direct blows, the lightning didn't hit them if they defended with ice. For some unknown reason, it happened, and thankfully because of it, they managed to hold on to their lives. But this can't keep going on. The dragon showed no signs of being tired. On the other hand, they were all tired. As was the case with Dan Jushin, most of the warriors had exhausted more than half their strength. The remaining power. Looking around, there were more than 600 warriors with tired expressions. At first glance, that number was huge, but the number of corpses on the floor exceeded 300. We need to find a way to kill it, not a way to stop its attacks. Otherwise, the humans will be the first to fall. That was when someone's voice was heard. Deputy King. When he turned his head in the direction the sound was coming from, he saw a woman. Miss Jeagle? She was none other than Jeagle Sohi, the strategist of Yulin. He was puzzled as she suddenly sent a telepathic message, but it was encouraging. The scales are vulnerable to fire? Dan Jushin frowned while looking at the dragon, which was snorting smoke. On the other hand, the dragon head on Yulin's side was. Pack. 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 Shoot. Keep shooting. The warriors kept on shooting fire arrows. He didn't believe it at first as the fire arrows didn't seem to penetrate it, but then something changed. As they continued to use fire arrows, the lightning produced by the dragon became weaker. Oh my! That worked. Of course, for that to happen, half of their troops had to be sacrificed. Nearly 200 people died from the waves of lightning alone. Although the Yulin men were keeping their distance while fighting, only half of the troops had survived. At that time, Huang Boneng, who was shooting fire arrows like everyone else, shouted to Moyong Kong. Leader Moyong. An arrow is stuck. An arrow had never pierced the dragon's scale before. It was the first time in the battle. When he looked at the place where Huang Boneng pointed his finger at, an arrow was indeed stuck. Oh. Just as his ancestors' records said, the fire arrows really did work. But the problem was, there weren't any arrows left. It was a situation in which they were picking up anything that would work and shooting it. We need to win at all costs. Moyong Kong gulped. They kept shooting fire arrows while continuing to widen the distance so that they could avoid lightning. Although it had weakened, it was still difficult for them to get close to it. Someone has to sacrifice themselves at this point. Moyong Kong looked at the dragon's head with determined eyes. Even if it meant getting struck by the lightning, he had to die while taking down one head. Leader Huang. Moyong Kong informed Huang Boneng of his plan. Huang Bonuing, who paused for a moment at the mention of sacrificing himself, nodded his head. If they didn't kill the dragon, everyone would die. Give me a bottle of oil. Here. At Moyong Kang's cry, one of the warriors of the Moyong family, who was shooting arrows, threw half a bottle of oil. Grab. Moyong Kong, who caught the bottle, poured it on his sword. And as he put it close to a fire, it caught fire. HRRRK. Huang Boneng also poured oil on his great sword and made it catch fire. It wouldn't last long. They had to make sure the task was done before the fire went out. Let's go. Nice. At the exhilarating cry of Huang Boneng, Moyong Kong followed him. It was impossible for the dragon to remain still when he saw two people rush towards it with their swords lit on fire. Qua! The dragon roared, and lightning erupted from its body. Although weakened, the lightning was still too dangerous for people to get close to it, and it kept shooting the lightning in front of them as if it didn't want them to get closer. Crackle. Endure this. Moyang Kong bit his lip as he kept moving forward. It was then. Crackle. Crackle. Huh? In front of the two men, middle-aged men in white fur blocked the waves of lightning with ice shields. The lightning, which hit the ice shields, glided away. The people who blocked the lightning were officials from the North Sea Ice Palace. Go ahead. Path. After blocking the lightning, they shouted to the two men behind them. Thanks to them, Moyang Kong and Huang Boneng didn't die because of the lightning. They sent their thanks to the men and ran ahead with their swords still on fire and struck the dragon's neck. Slash. The swords pierced through the scales, which were supposed to be impenetrable. Kuuu. The dragon screamed as it twisted its long neck. The life-threatening adventure looked like it ended in success. Huang Boneng exclaimed as he put more force into the sword. You monster! Dai. Chuck. The swords of the two simultaneously pierced the thick neck of the dragon and cut it. The swords entered the neck through one side and then came out from the opposite side. Slash. Huang. The dragon's severed head fell to the ground. The warriors of the Yulin all looked at the fallen head of the dragon, and once it lost the light in its yellow eyes, they screamed. Wah! We killed a dragon. Two heroes valiantly beheaded the dragon, which wrecked the place. The moments where they battled with fear and doubted whether they could kill that monster were finally rewarded. Huang Boneng slumped to the ground, tried, and waved his hand to Moyang Kong, who was near him, and smiled. It was then. Thud. Crackle. A gooey liquid dripped all over the place as they rejoiced. Moyang Kong, puzzled, raised his head to look at what was happening. Wuong. White flashes were visible in Moyang Kang's eyes, which were looking up. At that moment, a ray of intense lightning swept past Huang Boneng, who was seated on the ground close to the warriors. Quack quack wang. When the lightning passed, nothing but black soot remained. Moyang Kong yelled. Huang Boneng. The northwest side of the ice palace. The invisible sword made of huge black flames in Chen Youwen's hand cut down the dragon's neck. Slash. Bang. As they looked at the huge head falling to the ground, the warriors of the demonic cult shouted. Woa! Sky Demon Order! Lord Chen! Lord Chen! They shouted at the sight of Chen Youwen, who cut off the dragon's head in one stroke. The tornado of black flames, which surrounded him, slowly disappeared. Swoosh! Phew! The white particles in the augmented reality, which were only visible to Chen Youwen, who was panting, rapidly fell. The remaining amount of lightning chi 324%. The remaining amount of lightning chi 323%. The energy, which soared to 4 times the normal amount, was rapidly consumed. Perhaps, because it had exceeded the normal limit, the speed at which it decreased was fast. A temporary phenomenon? The lightning absorbed by Nano to protect Chen Youwen was a temporary amplifier. His body turned weary as he exhausted his stamina. Exact causes unknown. Analysis required. Okay. Well, once the flame is down. Crackle. At that moment, an unidentified liquid fell all over Chen Youwen. What? Chen Youwen, who raised his head at the unknown phenomenon, was shocked by the words that erupted from everywhere. The dragon is still alive. That is absurd. Despite its head being severed? It was shocking to everyone. The dragon's severed head reformed. Perhaps it regenerated from the neck up, or a dragon head with scales lighter than the original was created. The liquid seemed to ooze out of the regenerated body. What kind of regenerative power is this? 6th Elder Mongmu mumbled in shock. He heard of spirit beasts with excellent regenerative power, but what he just witnessed is supposed to be impossible. Grrrr. Wuong. A white flash of condensed lightning came from the mouth of the resurrected dragon. Mara Kim was the first to shout. Lightning! Everyone get away! Run away! Wah! Everyone spread out as the light formed. Contrary to their thoughts, the dragon had a clear goal in its mind. It was to take down Chen Yuan, who cut its head off. Crackle! From the dragon's mouth, sparks burst along with intense lightning flashes. Shit! Chen Yuan's face hardened. Chapter 418. The Dragon Turtle. Part 3. Shit! Chen Yuan hurriedly raised his hand and tried to pull his energy up. Black flames once again radiated and whirled around him, creating a huge body shield. Crackle! As the lightning hit the shield of the black flames, the electric charge dispersed in the heat and disappeared. However, Chen Yuan's body was pushed back by the intense power the lightning held. Quack! What amazing power! Crackle! After he got pushed back around 30 feet or so, the lightning from the dragon turtle extinguished. The newborn head of the dragon had an intense yellow glow in its yellow eyes and was glaring at just one person. Grrrr. The one which made its existence feel threatened. From the viewpoint of the cultists, who felt elated at its death, they ended up in frustration and fear as the head regenerated even after it was decapitated. In other words, they were dealing with an immortal monster. Why isn't it dead? Chen Yuan stared at the dragon as that question ran through his mind. Perhaps it weakened after its head was resurrected. Unlike the immediate attacks done before, the dragon seemed to gather energy before attacking. The dragon did suffer damage, but the one at a disadvantage was still the cult. Chen Yuan turned his head in the direction of the other dragon turtle's head. Ah? Looking elsewhere, he saw that dragons' heads on the other side had relatively pale scales as if its heads were cut once. Which meant that the Yulin and the North Sea Ice Palace had cut down the other heads of the dragon turtle once. So the head regenerates just like the normal body does? If all 4 heads are present, and then we die, wait, I don't see one head. Chen Yuan realized something. If the other dragon head appears, then the dragon turtle would end up killing everyone. From the information he was given, it was clear that the dragon turtle had 4 heads and a shell like a turtle. However, like a mole, only 3 of its heads stuck out. No. Hack. Chen Yuan put his palms on the ground. Looking at that, the concerned cultists hurriedly yelled out. Lord! It is about to shoot once again. Avoid it. Despite the shouts, Chen Yuan focused on the sensation that his hands would pick up from the ground. Da-dum. Da-dum. An intense beating under the ground. It seemed like what was underneath was excited and started to gradually beat faster. I knew it. As if he realized something, Chen Yuan got up from the ground and shouted at Hubong. Hubong. Yes. Its lightning can be weakened by fire or extreme heat. Be at the center and protect the members of the cult. Ugh. Me? I understand. Flustered at the heavy duty he had been given, Hubong hesitated as he responded. Among the cult, Hubong was the only one who possessed flame chi from the flame qilin. He was someone who could manipulate flames like Chen Yuan. Fat. Chen Yuan, who gave the order, quickly moved away and headed somewhere else. He went to the middle point of the triangle from where the 3 heads popped out from, namely, right above the ruins of the Ice Palace. Da-dum. 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 Here it is. The place where the heartbeat felt strongest. The body of the dragon was right below it. If the heads keep regenerating, it's a waste of time and effort to cut it. It was a gamble, but Chen Yuan decided that he should aim for the dragon's body. lightning chi remaining 189%. He still had double the amount of energy he typically possessed. Except for the original amount he possessed, he had to release all the extra energy. Fat. Chen Yuan quickly flew into the air. Rising into the air, he stood over the collapsed palace ruins and raised his hands. The wreckage and rubble began to rustle and tremble. Drrrr. Drrrr. Amid the rubble, the fallen warriors and officials began to float into the sky. The sight of hundreds of dead people rising into the air was a spectacular and, at the same time, scary sight to witness. Coo! There was no way that the warriors and skilled masters around wouldn't notice the intense energy, which was strong enough to cover and shake the entire island of the Ice Palace. Even Dan Jushin, the deputy king of the Ice Palace, who was dealing with the resurrected head of the dragon, was in shock. That can't be possible. Weapons responded to the energy. The weapons dropped by the dead warriors and officials shook as they floated up to the sky. Dan Jushin and the other elders looked at the strange phenomenon. Lord of the demonic cult? How did this happen? It was Chen Yuan, who was in the middle of the ruined Ice Palace, causing such unbelievable things. They weren't the only ones seeing that. Moyang Kong, who was madly attacking the dragon to avenge Huang Bonuang, looked at the sky as the warriors mumbled something. That light is something which was seen in the Jin castle of the Tongo region, which earned Chen Yuan the title of demon god. The technique which had engulfed the entire Jin castle with blood and death was about to manifest. Is that something a human can really do? Moyan Yu, who was guarding the wounded Jigul Sohi and Jigul clan's warriors, looked at the air with a pale face. When they first met, he thought that Chen Yuan was a great man, but now, he looked like a monster. He must have been trying to release the absolute technique of Sky Flash, the rumored technique which brought annihilation in the Jin castle. Is that the one I heard about? Ah, no. Miss Jigul. What do you mean by that? Look at those dragon heads. At Jigul Sohi's words, Moyang Yu looked at the dragon heads. It was impossible that the dragon heads, which belonged to a spirit beast, didn't feel the energy that Chen Yuan just released. Suddenly, the heads of the dragon all turned towards Chen Yuan and opened their mouths. Their goal, after sensing the crisis, was to end the source of their fear. Whoa! White flashes with condensed energy and sparks. At that, all the people from the demonic cult, North Sea Ice Palace, and the Yulin, who were fighting the dragon, shouted. Lo Lord, protect the Lord. Stop the attack from the dragon turtle right away. We need to make room for Lord Chen to attack. Everyone tried to cut the dragon's heads to help Chen Yuan. But, something unexpected happened. Grrrr. El land is? An earthquake. The ground they were standing on began to shake violently. With the land shaking so much, it was difficult for them to stand. The dragon, which only used its 3 heads until now, sensed a crisis and finally moved. Crack. Avoid it. Stay away from the cracks. Ominous sparks spouted from the cracked ground. It was a sign that lightning was about to come up from the ground. Despite flying away from the cracked ground, many people got caught by the lightning, which soared up from the ground. Crackle. Quack. Yuuk. Screams from those who were near the palace. Instead of stopping the dragon, people were busy running away and trying to protect themselves. In the meantime, the dragon's 3 heads, which had gathered condensed energy in their mouths, simultaneously shot lightning towards Chen Yuan. Avoid! The cultists shouted in shock. However, Chen Yuan didn't even move, as if he had no intention of avoiding it. The 6 swords screamed, but it was too late. Crackle! Streaks of lightning flashed from 3 different directions, all aiming for Chen Yuan, who was surrounded in black flames. Quang! crackle, flash. When the beams of lightning, which were strong enough to turn everything into soot, came in from multiple directions, people began to lose hope. How could this? Why didn't he avoid it? My lord. Everyone stared at one place in the sky with bewildered eyes. This time, despite being called the demon god, they thought that their lord wouldn't make it out alive. It was suicide. Grr. The heads of the dragon, who gathered all their strength to eliminate their common enemy, constantly snorted as if they were showing their satisfaction. The dragon turned its heads and focused on the people who were still standing on the ground until their yellow eyes widened at what they saw. Grr. Likewise, even the people who looked at that shouted, "Whoa! Lord Chun is safe." They were people from different factions, but for that moment, they were allies. Surprisingly, Chun Yuan, who was supposed to be dead, was still standing in the air. No way to survive even after being hit by the three. Lord of the demonic cult, you really aren't a human. Moyong Kong shook his head. He thought Chun Yuan had died for sure, but this man was alive even after being hit. Besides, crackle. Chun Yuan's entire body, which was already covered in black flames, now had lightning crackling around it. It was as if he had turned into a god of thunder and black flames. Everyone shouted and cheered for Lord Chun. Lightning Chi 1200%, at limit, it is dangerous for the user to use. Crackle. Nano's voice cracked and then got cut off from Chun Yuan's head. The gamble of risking his life made him collect stronger energy. However, it looked like Nano was overloaded or overheated in the process of absorbing such tremendous energy. Crackle. Flash. Phew, ugh, just hold on. Nano. It was the same with Chun Yuan, whose veins were popping out. If he didn't quickly release the energy, it seemed like he would end up suffering massive damage to his body. I always give back what I receive. Chun Yuan reached out towards the shaking ground. And whoa! The weapons he gathered in the air, which had turned black because of the lightning, were now burning in black flames. It seemed like he had to discard them and use sword chi, as was the case with the invisible sword, which would be used as an air sword. Typically, such a thing should be impossible. Oh. Is this Sky Flash? Moyong Kong, the only one who witnessed Sky Flash, stared at the sight with trembling eyes. No. This is different. That isn't what we saw. Huh? Everyone's attention focused on Chun Yuan as he stretched out his hand and ordered Nano. Nano, target lock. Multi-lock, on system. Crackle. Nano's cracking voice resonated in his head. Numerous red targets in the form of trajectories worked around Chun Yuan, whose augmented reality was opened. Some of them aimed for the three heads of the dragon, which shot lightning towards him. Beep. 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 Activate. At that moment, the black flame lightning and the gathered swords bombarded and slammed into the ground where the dragon turtle was hiding its body. Quack 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 wang. Bang. Crack. Break. A black ray of light with lightning in it split off in three directions and passed through the dragon's heads at once. The dragon turtle heads didn't even have time to gather condensed energy. In an instant, the parts where the necks got cut turned black as if they got burned. Crackle. Crackle. The heads of the dragons soon fell to the ground, just like they did in the past. Thud. 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 There was no sign of regenerating. Seeing the thick and long body of the dragon turtle lying on the ground, the deputy king of the palace, Dan Jushin, was shocked. Such absurd power. Decapitating dragon heads seemed like a futile thing after the sacrifices everyone had to make. But that wasn't the end. Rumble. The floor shook violently as the rays of black flame and lightning poured down, and the scream, which was different from the existing dragon heads, came out. Qua. The sound was coming from the body of the dragon below the ground. Everyone who watched that cheered for Chen Yuan, who was still alive. The dragon is in pain. The power of the demon god's sky flash, which they only heard of, was a thrill for the eyes. Even then, Moyang Kong, who saw that, mumbled in a trembling voice. Who the hell can stop that monster? It didn't need an explanation to know whom he was referring to as a monster,